Alright, I hope everybody's doing okay. So last week we talked about characteristics of quadratics from the graph, and now we're going to talk about it with the equation, and then next week y'all are going to start graphing these. So here is our first example, y equals 3x squared. Again, we know it's a quadratic because this has a degree of 2. So the first thing I want to do is I want you all to think back to factoring when we were factoring quadratics and we identified our A, our B, and our C. So that's what we're going to do here. Remember, I will write it. A quadratic standard form is ax squared plus bx plus c. So here in our case, we can see that A equals 3. There is no bx term, so that's 0. And there is no constant either, so again, that's 0. And we are going to next identify our axis of symmetry. So that is a vertical line. So we are always going to start that out as x equals, because it's a vertical line, it's an equation of a line. And that would be negative b over 2a. So we're going to fill out what we know for r. So x equals, because again it's always an equation, negative 0 over 2 times 3. So this would be x equals negative 0 over 6, which is just 0. The next thing that we are going to find is our y-intercept. Now, if you think back to when we were graphing linear equations, or just graphing anything, a y-intercept as an ordered pair, our x value is 0. So we're just going to plug in 0. Well, and some of you might need to do the little math. So 3, 0 squared. Well, 0 squared is 0. 3 times 0 is 0. So our y-intercept here is just going to be 0, 0. Next thing that we will find is our vertex. And this is where it can get a little tricky. So our vertex, if you recall, falls on our axis of symmetry. So that x value you've already found. So negative b over 2a. Now to get your y value, you will plug in that negative b over 2a. And then you will get a y. So we write this f. That's why it's f of negative b over 2a. And it can look a little confusing, but it isn't as difficult as it appears. So for us, and I'm going to fix that with my OCD. So for us, our intercept was 0. So I'm just going to come down here and I'm going to do f of 0. Well, we already did that before, but I'm going to do it one more time. And you get 0. So for us, our vertex is actually 0, 0. And then the next thing that we are going to do is we will determine if we have a minimum or a max. And to do this, we need to look at our a value. So for us, a is a positive 3. So anytime a is a positive number, that means your parabola opens upwards. It's happy. And your vertex then would be down here, which would then be a min. So for us, yes, we have a min, and it's at your vertex. And it will always be at your vertex, whether it is a minimum or a maximum. So for us, we have a min at 0, 0. All right, we are on to our second example, y equals negative x squared minus 12. We're going to start off identifying our a value, which is negative 1. Our b value, we don't have one, so 0. Our c value, which is negative 12. And then we are going to find our axis of symmetry. So again, this is x equals negative b over 2a. Let me make that negative more distinct. So here we do not have a b, so that is 0, negative 0 over 2 times negative 1, which is just 0. Okay, from there we're going to find our y-intercept, which I did not tell you on the last slide. It is always your c value. So as a point, that would be 0, comma, negative 12, since negative 12 is our c value. Okay, from there we're going to put in some work, and we are going to find our vertex. Remember, that is negative b over 2a, comma, f of negative b over 2a. Okay, so we already know that the negative b over 2a is 0. We are now going to find this f of 0. And keep in mind, f of, that's fancy for just y. So negative x squared minus 12. And this of 0 tells me I'm just going to substitute in 0 for x. So we get here negative 12. So our vertex is at 0, negative 12. Okay, then we need to determine if we have a min or a max. So we're going to look at our a value. So a equals negative 1. So that would mean our parabola is going to open downwards, and right here would be our vertex. And it is the highest point, so this would be a max at our vertex, which is 0, comma, negative 12. And here is our last example where it says y equals 4x squared minus 3x plus 10. So again, we're going to list our a value. Well, that is 4. Our b value, which is negative 3. And our c value, which is 10. And we're going to start off with our axis of symmetry. So x equals negative b over 2a. So in this case, that would be negative 3 over 2 times 4. Well, negative 3 is a positive 3. Over 2 times 4 is 8. And that does not reduce any further. So our axis of symmetry is x equals 3 over 8. Okay, we're going to find our y-intercept. So if you recall in our last slide, I told you that it's just your c value. So that would be 0, comma, 10, because 10 is our c value. And now we are going to find our vertex. We already know that the x value is 3 over 8. So now we're going to plug in f of 3 over 8. So this of means every time I see an x, I'm going to substitute that value in. So this is going to be 4 parentheses 3 over 8 squared minus 3 parentheses 3 over 8 plus 10. And this is where your calculator is going to become your best friend. You can do this without a calculator. You can go through. I simply just put this all in a calculator right here on the right. And I got 151 over 16. So our vertex is 3 over 8, 151 over 16. Now, do not freak out because it is a fraction, and like I've been saying all year, fractions are numbers, and we use them. Okay? We can't reduce the 51 over 16 anymore. Leave it like that. I want it improper. Less work on you. Okay, and then our last question is min or max. Well, we go back to our a value. A is a positive 4, so our parabola opens upwards. So that means down here is our vertex, so that is a min at our vertex, which is 3 over 8, 151 over 16.